Hi guys, Ryan here from the Basketball Fix. Now, we are so happy with the amount of support we've received all season long from our viewers and listeners. Coming into NBL25 finals is a big call to action. If you like what we're doing, please share this episode with somebody else close to you that you think would also like the Basketball Fix content. It helps us out immensely. And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow on your favorite platform. It shows us that we're doing a great job, and we will continue to deliver top quality NBL content all through the finals and into NBL 26.
Welcome to this episode of the Bullets broadcast. A huge thanks to the Basketball Fix guys. It is so great to have a champion for the voices of the fans, and that's what the Basketball Fix is. Last week, they have their own podcast, as well as all the team podcasts, well, a few of the team podcasts, they have their own. And last week, they interviewed Todd Withers from the Perth Wildcats, and I'm told they've got Casey Prather and Josh Bannon on future episodes. And they've just had another one drop today. So go and check out their other podcasts because they do really great work. They're really championing the voice of fans in the NBL. In today's episode of the Bullets broadcast, though, I am so grateful to be joined by Cameron Pawluk. Welcome, Cameron.
Hello, thank you.
You are welcome. And tell me a little bit about your Bullets story. How long have you followed the team?
Thank you for having me, and thanks to Basketball Fix for giving us this great opportunity to do this. I started following the Bullets way back in 1987. So it was the last game of the regular home season. And that was the season they went on to win the championship. And have been going ever since. So it all started.
And what made you go to that first game? Did you play basketball?
No, so I knew absolutely nothing about basketball. My older sister, who's a little bit older than me, was working at Granny May's at Indooroopilly, and some guys had come in to the store to buy some hats. They were blue hats. They had mushrooms on them. And it just so happened to be Mushy, who used to be the Bullets crowd spruiker. So he basically Johnny Drama. And he had come in to buy these hats. Got to speaking to my sister, telling her all about what they were for and what they did. And so she came home and was like, Mum, we need to go to one of these games. And so Mum and Dad were just like, okay, let's go. And the rest is history. We've been going pretty much ever since. I was 8 years old at the time, so I didn't get to go to every game. My mum and my sister had the season tickets. They would go, and then whenever my brother decided he wanted to go along, I'd get to tag along as well. Or if they could get me a seat close by to their season tickets, I would get to tag along. I used to do every single training camp that the Bullets would run during the school holidays. So I got to learn how to play from, Leroy Loggins, Shane Heal, Larry Sandstock, Darren Perry, all of those guys. And in 1988, Brian Curl took the Bullets over to America on a tour. And they took a whole bunch of fans with them. My sister went along in that tour. And so all the fans that went along got to know all the team because they traveled with them. They stayed in the same hotels. There was a few of the players at that stage who were under the age of 21, so they couldn't go out drinking or anything. So they got to know those players really well. And then, they came back, and as a result of that, I got to tag along whenever they went to, training sessions, and they'd introduce us to all the players. So I got to know all the players really well back in those days. I've got a photo somewhere of me and Shane Heal, and I've got Shane Heal sunglasses on, and it was quite really sucked us in, and from that, basketball has pretty much been my life. Followed them right up until they, collapsed in 2008. Was there for the 2007 championship. Stuck through all of that. And then when they joined back up, 8-9 years ago now, I signed up as a foundation member from the get-go and haven't looked back.
Wow. And it's really just, if the Bullets are listening, that's such a beautiful, it's the dream story of why they do all of the community. Like this is the whole. It could have been a footballer that walked in there, and you wouldn't have ever known what basketball was. But
no.
Good old mushroom, hey? How amazing! Like such a great story. I'm so grateful that you've been able to come on today. And so let's start with taking a look at our last game. Let's get into it. So since our last episode, there's only been one game, which is a bit of a shock to our system because since before Christmas, it's been basketball crazy. And so we had Bullets versus the Adelaide down in Adelaide on Friday, 31st of January. You tell me what you thought of that game. What's your review?
So I think, like everyone, wasn't expecting much at all. I think Adelaide came out and thought they could just show up and they'd win it. I think we really sort of got up in their face and tried to take ownership of the game early on, which is exactly what they needed to do. They're absolutely nothing to lose at this point of the season. And everything to gain. So I think they just went out, gutsy effort. We had some early foul troubles early on. But I actually think, I know it sounds weird, I think that actually had a positive effect on the game for us. I actually think it bogged Adelaide down in their game plan. They're a run and gun sort of team. And those fouls, because there were so many, I think their first 6 or 8 points were actually, the majority of them were fouls. Were like from
free throws.
Yeah. Because I can remember looking at one point and I'm like, they've only shot the ball like twice, but they've had all these free throws. And I think that worked to our advantage, caused a few issues down further along the game for us in terms of our foul counts. But I really think that bogged them down, and I think that worked to our advantage. It slowed the game right down, and with all of our injuries, I think that was exactly what we needed for the game. So
risky, but thank God it worked. And who thought we'd ever be sitting here going, all those fouls was a good thing?
Yes,
what?
yeah. It's probably a weird look at it, but that's the way I felt watching it. And Tohi Smith-Milner came out, absolutely monster double-double. He has been probably one of our best and consistent over the past few weeks with all the others out. It's what I was expecting from him when we signed him. This is what I was kind of expecting. I had a few people doubting and going, no, they didn't think he was the right fit. But I'm like, this is what I remember him doing for Melbourne United. He could come out and do this type of thing when he needed to. So it's great to see he's had that chance to really do that.
And can do it for the amount of minutes that he's had to do it for. So we'd see him come out and do it. That's what great bench players do. They come out for the minutes they've got and they go hard, and then they, hand it back to the starters again. But he's been asked to do way more, and he stepped right up into that role.
Absolutely. And that's what I've liked. I think we've actually had that, not just from him, but Isaac White has done that. He's been a little bit more inconsistent with it. I think he's the first to admit that he's been a bit inconsistent with that. But, it was Adelaide. He was always going to come out as well and have a great game.
Parents in the crowds. Bring that family down.
Yeah, can we just move them up to Brisbane?
Please.
So he's playing in front of them.
Isn't there like a Bullets member or something that flies up from Adelaide every game? Get his parents on the night.
Yeah.
They can all come together. It can be a little party.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought he had a great game. Casey Prather did Casey Prather. He actually didn't shoot the ball very well. I think he was 1 of 10 from the 3-point line, which is pretty uncharacteristic of him of late, because I think he's been shooting up around that 40%. So to go 1 and 10 from there, but still finish with 26, 27 points is still pretty amazing. I think he was 8 of 10 from the rest of the field. So, he was doing his thing. I thought the one thing that I liked was that they didn't lose faith in Keandre Cook down along the way. He missed some shots. He was looking a bit shaky at one point. And then he came out and hit that massive 3, which pretty much helped seal the deal. I know Coach in the press conference after the game said that Prather actually said to him in that timeout before that shot happened, just keep going to Cook, just keep going to him, which shows the great faith that they have in each other, which I think speaks a lot about how well that team have bonded this season.
Yeah. So I'm in a little chat group with the guys from the Basketball Fix. So every game we're in there chatting, and one of them, when he missed that 3, that really could have sealed the game. And they're like, oh, that was a terrible shot. I said, no, it wasn't. I want him to take that shot, and it's okay that he missed it. That's what he's here to do, and that's what he needs to do. And that was a good shot, and he needs to take good shots, and it missed. Well, and then he came down and did it, and I said, see, that's why. That's right. That's why.
Exactly. And I like that he didn't lose faith in himself either.
It was perfection.
I think we've had that in the past with some of our imports, as they get a bit down on themselves, and you can kind of tell that they're down and they don't have that faith. I haven't seen that from him too much this season. I think there's 1 or 2 games where he's maybe dropped his head. But I think most of the time he's been pretty, backs himself in, keeps shooting. Sometimes there's times I wish he wouldn't shoot them when he's really on a bad night, but he's trying to back himself in, and shooters want to shoot.
That's it. Shooters shoot, and that's it. It's like it's just the way to go. And I mean, the only time I would say don't shoot is if somebody else is really hot. So if Isaac White had the hot hand and he was 1 from 15 himself, it'd be like, just get the ball to somebody who is hot. So that's the only time I don't want shooters to shoot, if somebody's actually hotter than them, or if your name's Bryce Cotton, and then it's like, just let the man shoot.
That's it. I do. There was one concern in the game, which I think was Josh Adams with that rib injury. They didn't really say too much after the game in the press conference about how serious it is, and we haven't really heard anything yet. I also think his ankle still looks a bit shaky.
He's not he's 50% better than he was, but he's not at 100.
Yeah, there's a few defensive lapses late in that fourth quarter, and some of them were off of his defense. And I do put that down just to the issue that he has with that ankle. And that couple other little breakdowns, which I think really let Adelaide back into the game. I honestly thought I think we were 13 up, I was just like, they're not even going to get close to coming back. And there was a couple, and it was only a couple of defensive plays that we just let slip. And, they hit, I think DJ hit one, and I think maybe Davis hit one as well. A couple of big threes, and they were right back into it, and made it a lot closer than what it probably should have been.
Yeah, it was, and that's the biggest concern for our team with so few players is, do they have the legs to just ride this out? And that was the biggest thing. It was just like, oh my God, are they going to make it?
Yes.
Because it's just like when you ask your body to go and it doesn't, there's not much more you can really do.
Yeah, and then we had the foul count as well hindering us. You know, I think we had 3 or 4 players on 4 fouls. You know, Norton did exceptionally well. He got picked up 2 very early on in the game, and he finished the game with 3. So I think he did exceptionally well.
He gets my honourable mention. He's like the top of the list. His defence was just unreal, and he did that for the whole game. And so in offensively, it's like, gee, I'd like to see him be more confident with his 3-ball again, because we need that extra perimeter threat offensively. We just need it. But when he's doing that kind of defence all game, I'm like, I don't care what you do offensively. Like, nothing else matters. To hold Kendrick Davis to those numbers is exceptional. And when he wasn't on him, Whitey was. And Whitey was chomping at the bit to get out there and have a go. And that's what I really loved when I saw the presser. I was like, he wanted that call up. He wanted that matchup. And he was, Yeah,
I thought that was great as well. And I like the way White, you know, in that press conference, you know, he wanted to get out after it. He reckons he didn't do as good of a job as Nordo. Maybe not, but, you know, Nordo's top tier when it comes to defense.
He didn't need to. He just needed to hold, just to hold him off a bit. He needed to make it hard. You know, great defenses make him shoot hard shots. Yep, I agree. Yep, absolutely, I agree. Yeah, it was really interesting. So on the last podcast, I've never been so happy in my life to be wrong. And I think I should just tip against the Bullets all the time because it seems to be working for me. And I wasn't saying the Bullets couldn't win. I thought Adelaide had finally gone to the next level. I thought they'd found their next gear and they were just ready to go and they would have just taken off, because when they show up, they can beat anyone in the league, and they just didn't seem to show up. And what's really interesting for me about them is Jarrell Martin seems to be the piece. So it's like he doesn't often get player of the game or anything like that. I'm like, but when he's there, he's got an X factor that lifts his team. And so I think that is the thing that's missing from Adelaide, that when he's there. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens coming into this next bit. But we'll talk about it a bit more as is it even possible for us to get into the 6? I think it's possible, but not probable with what has to happen. But I will just keep saying that the Bullets can't do it and it's not possible, and then it will probably prove me wrong. So I'm happy to be proven wrong in these cases. It's very good. But I think what I really loved about the Bullets in this game, from an overall perspective, pan the camera back and let's look at how they showed up. They could have absolutely not showed up. They could have gone through the motions. They could have done their things, and they really chose to show up, and they chose to play smart basketball. They capitalised on the fact that Adelaide chose not to show up, and they really just gave it to them. And that's all you can ask. It's all you can ask. I actually didn't care if we won or lost that game. I wanted that win more for them than I did for me.
Yeah.
I was like, take that one, fellas. That's for you.
Yes. Yeah. You could see they wanted it. They were hungry for that win. So it was great to see.
And I said it in the group. It's like, I love that they got that win because they're so much better. It shows that they're so much better than what the season has handed them. They really are.
Yes, absolutely. If we hadn't have had all of these injuries, I honestly think we would be within that top 6. I don't think there's
I think so too.
any doubt in that.
Yeah. Because there's games there that we would have cleaned up and we would have been sitting, what are we now, 12 or 13 or something? We would have been sitting up around 15, I reckon, at least.
Yeah.
Like we've been right up there in the race. So, so we'll see. We'll review and have a look at our Cairns game next. But after a moment, because first of all, you and I have chosen to talk about who have we got contracted for next season and who's out of contract? Let's get in early and have a bit of a chat about this.
Yeah, because there's clearly talks already underway for a few players. So
I thought you weren't even allowed to talk until it became there was like a point in the season and you weren't allowed to talk until then. But there's like people full on talking already. So what do I know?
It's only with the players from other teams. That's not meant to happen until free agency. But anyone that's currently contracted with your team, you can start talks whenever you want. So yes. From what I've been able to find, looks like we've got under contract already Tyrell, Nordo, Kyle Savage, and Tristan Devers, which both of those Savage and Devers are DPs. And then out of contract and options, because there's a few players on options. So we've got Casey Prather is out of contract. James Bateman is a club option, which a lot of people say, well, that's useless. You know, it's not really much of a contract. Keandre Cook out of contract. Josh Bannon is a player option. So that one's actually on Bannon if he wants to come back. Kind of hope he does. Rocco, obviously off contract. Dengadell off contract. Emmett Nard, Josh Adams, Isaac White are all off contract. Tohi Smith-Milner is a club option as well. Sam McDaniel, Jared Bairstow are off contract, and then Josh Coonan is a club option as well.
All right. So let's go back to the start. Casey Prather. Who in their right mind would say, do not sign that man and don't give him the money he's asking for?
Just give him the bucket, the ducats, and let him go.
He wants a multi-year deal. It's, and the great thing is you've already said it in your notes, deep in negotiation.
Deep in negotiation. He wants that multi-year deal. They've offered a multi-year deal. So they want him for multiple years. It's just, the price, if they can negotiate that. I'm sure they came in low. Every team does that to every player. Illawarra have done it to Sam Frolling. I know. They're going to be stupid if they let him go. So it's, I think it'll happen. It's just going to come down to that number. I do have there's two things that I want to see him work on. It's his ball handling. He's probably our worst for turnovers within the team. And his defense. It does lack a little bit. He's not the worst out there, but he does tend to sort of trail off his man a little bit too much. I think part of that is because he's been playing the 4 spot a lot this season, but he usually winds up defending the 3 spot, and so a lot of the other 3 players in this league are a little bit quicker than him these days. So that might not be something that he can really fix up too much. He's had a couple knee injuries that's going to slow him down. So if we recruit around that, we know that it's a slight issue. If they plug those holes to help fill that gap with him, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, and imagine that when he develops again in the off season and he just gets his percentage up and gets his ball handling, and defense. It's not that hard to do. But I've noticed what's been really interesting from when he started playing this season, I'm like, even at a full sprint, I can see the limp. But it doesn't affect his ability to move at this stage. So defensively, it might have something to do with it, but I'm like, I wonder if he even realizes that he's limping, because it's not like a limp that's hampering. It's just like how his body has adjusted to the surgeries and injuries and rehab and all the things. So it's really interesting. And there's absolutely no reason, because of the level of player that he has been all the time since he's entered the NBL, that he won't just keep getting better. As long as he stays injury free, I think he's got some more great years in him. He's not on his way down, and he's just proved that.
Right.
And that's what I love seeing in the NBL. I've said it before. It's like the ones that you're like, oh, they're starting to wind down their season, they're getting old. They're getting better and leveling up. And then we've got these young ones coming through that are at a high level as well. It's just like, my goodness, we are spoiled for choice, and it's magnificent. All right, so we're bringing Casey back. That's done. That's great. James Bateman, let's talk about that. Club option. What do you think?
Club option. I think bringing back, I think he had turned the corner. He obviously had those struggles early on in the start of the season. And then, he moved to the bench. He started to look better, and then he exploded for that 51-point game. And from there, just look. I think the game after that, he dropped right off again. But
Cook stepped up.
Yes.
So the three of them work really well together.
Yeah. I think you could see that he had turned that corner and was starting to really figure the league out, and was looking really good and solid for us. I think he's better in that 2 spot instead of the point guard, which we'll talk about a little bit later in what I think we need. But I definitely bringing him back. I've got no issues there.
And so for me, I have no problem bringing him back either. However, I'd want to know their ability to recruit on what we saw this season minus injuries it's pretty good. They know how to find the diamond in the rough, which is great. So for me, if they say we're not bringing Bateman back, I have full trust in they've got somebody better.
Yeah.
So, for me, that means, oh my God, have they signed a star point guard? So if they don't sign Bateman, I won't be disappointed. If they do sign Bateman, I won't be disappointed. It's just one of those ones where I'm like, I don't think we can lose with Bateman. It's great if we've got him, but if they do not sign him and they do not take the club option, which when they did the signing session, somebody was there who was a foundation member, and they said when they were at the club, Bateman was like, yeah, I'm ready to come back. And the club was like, they had nothing to say on it. So they're just basically, we can't do anything until we've got all our pieces together. They weren't saying to him, it's a yes. They weren't saying it's a no. It's like, well, this is the job now. We need to go we need to look what's out there. And that's pretty exciting when you think of the names like Will McDowell Smith. Is that his name? McDowell White? McDowell White. Will McDowell White. So he's still out there. It's like, I wonder.
Yes.
So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next on our list?
Cook.
Yeah.
Cook. Yeah. I think that's the same with Cook. I'm okay if they keep him, because I thought, as you said, those three imports together were working really well. But if they don't bring him back, I think they'll have someone probably even better to bring in. I think they've got the cash this season to go that next level higher, even with whatever they're paying Casey.
Yeah. And so my question is then, so I get excited because when I used to play basketball, I played the 4 and the 5. So I'm very supportive of our big men. And so for me, it's like, well, if you sign someone like a Will McDowell White and then you keep either Bateman or Cook or bring in another high-level scorer, it's like, does that mean Prather will sit at the 3, and does that mean we can go after some more bigs? Because that's where I want to see us fill out a little bit more. I mean, you see it when Adelaide, when their bigs are on the floor, it makes a difference. It really does.
Yes.
So I'm the same with Cook. I'm like, I don't think we can lose here. I don't think we can lose if they re-sign everyone. We can't lose other than injuries. I don't think there's a player here where I just go, no, not good enough.
That's it. I've been sitting here going through for the past couple of days going, you know what? If they bring them back, I'm okay. If they let them go, I'm okay. I think they'll either way. Yeah, we're winning.
Yeah, I really feel that as well. So Josh Bannon, player option. Yes. Coach has been very, very vocal about it, that he's going to build this team around this man. So he might look at what else is out there in the market, but I'd be really surprised if they didn't re-sign, if he didn't choose to take his player option.
Yeah, I think he'll re-sign, only because he's had such a bad run of injuries over the past 2 seasons, and I think he wants to really be able to show what he can do with a healthy season under his belt. And I think,
and then he can ask for more money. Yeah,
and then he can ask for more money. So I think his best option is to stay for now, have a full healthy season under his belt, really rip in, because the one thing I noticed this season is that hand injury that he had at the start clearly affected his shooting. So I'd like to see, him take the time in the off season, get that right, come out, have a monster season, show everyone what the coach has seen in him and what they're expecting.
And what we saw last season. We had such big expectations this season, and they just weren't met because his body just didn't quite join us for the party. All right, let's talk about the other big man, Rocco Zikarsky.
Yeah, I honestly think he will get drafted. Maybe not.
I hope so.
Not where they thought he was initially. No. But I think he'll go. I think he will do really well to be in that environment. If not in the NBA, but in the G League. Just developing they have so much better facilities, and they're better prepared for guys of that size. I think he'll be better for his development to be in that sort of environment.
Yeah, so I was listening to Bogues on his podcast, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, Australians just don't really know what to do with the bodies. He needs to fill out a bit more, and he hasn't had the development. And I'm really disappointed by that. And I do wonder, it's like, did the Bullets just fail him a little bit, or is there a whole bunch of story that we just don't know? And that's the hardest thing. It's like, we can sit here, we can have an opinion, but I think there's too much that we don't know. I was asked the question after I did the first episode, and it's like, is he not playing right now to save his spot in the draft? And I was like, initially I was really quite cross with that, going, we've got no bodies. Why would anybody choose not to do that? And so it took me a while to process that, because I'm a team first person. But then if I put myself in Rocco's position, and I look at it and just go, is it detrimental to my career to play the rest of the season out for this team and potentially not get picked up at all, to be able to go to the NBA? And it's like the pay, it just doesn't even come close. Even G League, even entering in that way, it's just like, all right, I completely would have made the same decision.
Yeah.
What I don't like is the lack of clarity around it. Just tell us. Like, it's happened before. I think they even did it with Alex Sarr. We can name 3 or 4 next stars where they just stop them now to hold their space in the draft. This is what we do with next stars. Everyone get used to it. It happens. So is it a knee injury, or is it holding the space? And just be honest, and we'll all get over it and move on and celebrate him and wish him the best, no matter what it is. But I just don't want you to tell us it's an injury when it's not, because they stopped talking about him. They were talking about Bullets injuries for, I watched it because after the first episode, somebody said to me, I reckon this is what's happening. I was like, surely not. And I had a chat to a few people, and they're like, no, I think it's on pretty good word that it's a possibility. So I was like, all right, I'll bring it up. But they stopped talking about him as a part of the team for injuries. They just he just lost off the radar. And then all of a sudden last week they spoke about him again. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? Because we're all asking the question now. They've just brought him back into the conversation.
Yes. Yeah. I think with the other next stars where they've stopped them, they actually came out pretty much straight away and said, that's it.
Yeah.
They're done for the season. They didn't try to hide it. So I don't think they would try to hide it. I would hope that they wouldn't be trying to hide just that for that reason, because everyone would understand. I must admit, I got my photo. I saw him. I think it was the members round. I was in the members bar and I actually got to have my photo with him. Completely forgot to ask any sort of questions. So I probably that should have been the question I should have asked as to how he was going with his injury, just to see what kind of reaction there was.
And all we've ever been told was knee. Nobody's said meniscus, grade 1 tear. Nobody's giving us any kind of information. And I'm like, then that's what made me suspicious. When I heard that, I was like, no. And then I'm like, oh, hold on. Let's look back here. Nobody's saying what it is. Nobody's giving a time for it. Nobody's even talking about him anymore. And now he's popped back on the radar and all they're saying is knee. And the NBL website said to be confirmed for quite a while. So I was like, anyway. So I don't like the integrity of it if we're not being told the truth. That is my big one, because we're building a culture. And I do not like that culture if that's what's being built on. And also you've got an 18, 17, 18-year-old kid who is laying the foundation for his career moving forward, and you don't want it you don't want that to be it. You just want to be honest, you want to be open, and you want to move forward. And so I do hope he gets picked up as well, and I wish him all the best. And if I could go back now, I would have said, mate, you should have signed with Sydney. And you should only have signed with Sydney, not even for on court, not for the coach, but for the owners. You would have had Bogut and Longley as owners. You would have had the contacts. You just would have had that knowledge and understanding. And I just think it would have been better for his career. So I think if he could wind back the clock, maybe that was a choice he would have made. But anyway, we can only move forward from here, and we wish him all the best. All right, Dang Adele.
So with Dang, I've not even looked at how many games he's played for us this season. But I think he's been injured the vast majority of it. So I don't think he's
Which is why he got dropped last time, wasn't it? It was,
He...
Or didn't get re-signed. Didn't get dropped.
He didn't get re-signed. He didn't really come out and meet expectations when he was at Illawarra. He'd come off, I think he'd played a couple games in the NBA or something like that. I know he had played in the summer league and really showed out, and everyone was touting him as one of the next big products out of Australia to make the NBA. And then he came and played for Illawarra and just didn't have a great season at all. I thought he started off our preseason. He looked great. He's athletic. He can shoot the ball reasonably well from the three-point line. But what he was doing in the preseason, he was actually attacking the rim more, and that was, I don't know, I think that allowed him to use that athleticism, and he looked really good. And then, he's just injury after injury and not really being able to find any sort of rhythm or groove.
It's a massive risk. If you did re-sign, it'd be a late re-signing. You wouldn't jump into that one. It's like, go play the NBL one for a while and let's see how your body holds up and see what happens. All right, so Emmett Nair and Josh Adams, they're probably not on the table because they were injury replacements.
Yeah.
So we'll skip past that. Isaac White.
I'm bringing White back. I'm bringing him back. I think he wants to get better defensively. And I think if he can get to that Mitch Norton level of defense with his offensive ability, I think he could be the backup point guard.
Yeah.
or
So
one
the
of those
Isaac
backup.
White of the last 2 games, I want to bring back as well. Isaac White the rest of the season, I'm like, oh, he's on and off, and that great game in Adelaide, and on and off, and then the last 2 games, I'm like, yeah, that's the Whitey. That's the one. All right, so Tohi Smith-Milner. I've got to figure out how the Kiwis say that name because I don't think I've got it yet.
I'm bringing him back. I think he's given us enough that, he's a reliable backup, whether it's at the 4 or at the centre if we go small. He's clearly shown that he deserves to be brought back for another season or 2.
Everything you want from what is he? I think we said last episode he's like 4th man down the bigs list. It was like the 2 bigs and then the 2 bigs and then Josh and then Tohi. That was his spot there, and he's at the top. And when he steps up to the top and delivers what he's delivering, you got to bring him back. Like you've got to bring him back. Just on what he's been able to give this season, there's no question in my mind. He's got to come back.
Absolutely.
All right, Sam McDaniel.
I'm bringing Sam back. He's a defensive juggernaut. And
not offensively bad either. He's not like I'm in defense and not great at offense.
Yeah.
The elevation on that jump shot is very lovely to watch.
He does the backdoor cuts exceptionally well as well. You've got to bring him back. I actually think the moment they announced he was done for the season, I pretty much went, okay, we're going to struggle defensively. There's something about what he does defensively with the rest of the team that made us that much better. And for me, it showed. It showed. We're, one of the worst defensive teams this season. And I think having him in there will help shore up a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see any reason not to bring him back other than if he gets injured in the off-season.
So,
Jared Bairstow.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've got that for the next 2 players, for him and Josh. Koeman. I'm on the fence. I can see the need for Bairstow. He's, once again, a pretty rock-solid defender. And the few times he managed to, when he did come out on court, he did bring a bit of a spark when we needed it defensively. I'm okay if they bring him back. Once again, because I'm still not too sure what his injury was. And so, how is he going to pull up from that injury?
Jared's or Josh?
Jared's.
We're on Jared. Jared's was his ankle or foot, or because he was in a whole moon boot thing.
Yeah.
He had a whole thing going on down there somewhere. So I don't know exactly what it was either. I don't know if it was ankle or foot or Achilles or I don't know, but it was pretty big. Yeah. For those 2, I'm really not sure, but I get really excited when I see things because everyone loves to poach from Cairns, but is it Groves, the big man?
Yeah.
Geez, I'd love to.
I know.
Just and I would take Jarrell Martin. I want Jarrell Martin from Adelaide, and the names I did not write their names down. Now I'm paying for it. Sydney, man on the bench, the one Gorgon just will not play.
Oh, Cam Oliver.
Thank you.
No,
I was
Cam.
going Cameron. Yeah. No, Cam Oliver. Any one of those 3, I would just love. What I really miss at the Bullets, and this is nothing against the bigs we've got. I love all of the bigs we've got. But what I really love to watch was the bodies like Banger and like, God, I've lost it again. Kiwi, coach from Tasmania now.
Mika Vakona.
Thank you. Oh, my God. I had all these names, but I didn't write them now. So I'm coming with my memory, and that's failed me tonight. Mika Vakona and Banger. My favourite thing to watch was those 2 just standing there and other big men trying to just bump them in the key and get around them. I was like, oh, I'm going to love watching this. That's my favourite thing when they're bumping bodies. I'm like, you are not going to move those 2 men. I want one of those bodies back in our team. I just want one big man that can hold a space like that again. I love the bigs we've got. We call Tyrell Harrison the OG because he's the OG and he's the only one that has been there since the start.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love everything about him. I love it when they re-sign him on long contracts. I'm a huge fan. But I want that big that just can hold a space like that.
Yeah. Kind of that bruiser type player.
Yeah, and just someone to bounce off, someone that it's like, this is like Harrison's got it up high, someone just to hold the space down low and just to really get it done. But having said that, their boxing out has been exceptional in the last few games. They've been getting some great rebounds. They've done really good on bodies, but I still want that big body in there. So what do you really think we need? We need to bring Prather back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've been through a bit of this.
Yeah, so definitely.
Let's talk point guards. Let's talk point guards. Let's go down starting.
I definitely think we need a starting point guard. Norton has done great this season with what, they've asked him to do way more than what I think they were expecting him to do this season.
Yeah.
Bateman was meant to be that point guard, but he looked better in the two. So I definitely think a really good point guard. Will McDowell-White is out there. He's going to cost even more than what I think we were throwing at him for this season. So, he's in highly sought after in Europe at the moment. He's been doing really well. So he's going to cost more if we can bring him home. The other one, and once again, this is going to cost us, but Matthew Dellavedova. He's off contract at the end of the season. And, they were saying in Marketplace, his best friend lives here in Brisbane. Mitch Young.
So Derek would like to see him here. Derek did us a solid and just planted that seed in Delly's mind.
Absolutely.
But
I love that.
What player in their right mind would leave Melbourne?
I know.
And not the city, but that club. Well established, guaranteed top 2 to top 4 every year. Like, it just depends and you've got to look at what Delly's focus is in the next 3 years, and that's to get himself to the next Olympics. Where is he better off doing that? Like, there's a lot of things to go into it. So I would welcome him with massively open arms because he is a difference at that club. And wants the big moments and wants to take over and says, when you need something, you ask me and I will make it happen. But I would welcome him, but I would be shocked and amazed if they got that done.
Yes. Yeah. That, for me, that would be the pickup since our return if we managed to get that. It's a long shot, but, if they throw the right type of money, it might happen.
And what else have they got up their sleeve? So if they don't get McDowell-White or Dellavedova or something like that, like, what else are they looking at? What else are they doing out there? That's what interests me.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, in terms of point guards, I'm not too sure what else, because I don't think if they bring Bateman back and Prather back and Cook, well, they kind of need that Aussie point guard. But if they let one of those goes, one of Bateman or Cook go, then I definitely think import point guard, but obviously a higher level. And for that, for me, I think they would have to let Bateman go if they were going to go that way. So, that spot. I think probably moving forward, we've got Bennon at the 4.
We need more big men.
He's healthy. I think we need a decent backup for him. Local 4s, though, are really hard to find. That are.
Is Groves local or is he an import?
He's an import.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. And that's why you need to know all the pieces of the puzzle. And that's the, Stu Lash's job and coach's job to sit there and just go, let's look at the big picture, because we need the bodies in the bigs, because we just need one more big solid one. Like, we've got 2 they're amazing. I cannot see a world where Rocco will be back for him. Like I, we're all backing him to be in the NBA, no matter what that looks like for him. And so what do we do now? What do we do now? And so that would be watching that one very closely.
Yeah, because that would then mean another backup centre for Tyrell. Once again, local bigs that are even semi-decent are hard to find here in Australia. So, that's going to be a tough one to fill.
And that's why they keep signing Tyrell, because they know what they've got there. But
that's it.
I was calling for the injury replacement to be Baines to come back, but there's many reasons why that didn't happen. But God, I would have been beside myself had I seen that. And so how are we going to lift the defense? And this is what I'm just going to say this now, which the thing that really frustrates me is we were meant to be a defensively minded team. Yes, I believe Sam McDaniel would lift that, but why does it take one player to lift it if the team can't do it? That's a concern to me if one person's running that. And you look at a team like Southeast Melbourne. Southeast Melbourne, everyone said it at the start of the season. I was like, oh my God, that roster. That is beautiful. And they're like, no, it'll be no good because it's not a defensive team. And Josh King comes in and turns them in one of the top defensive teams in the league. So I'm a big believer in it can be done. Like, you want players that are defensive minded, but he took an entire team that is not known for their defense and put them up there. So I'm just like, I think we need to change the mindset on that. And you need to make every player defensively minded.
I think he's come in and basically you either do it my way or you're sitting. So maybe coach needs to come in and play defense the way I want you, or you're going to sit on that bench. Because that's exactly what Kim did. He sat a number of players when he first came in. I find it really strange because we were, I think, top 4 defensively last season for most of the season. And it was only really the last sort of, not even the last quarter, the last sort of 3-4 rounds that we really dropped off defensively. And I think that was more players sort of realized we weren't going to make it and they just started playing for themselves a bit. So I don't know what's changed in terms of that attitude defensively. We're relatively most of the same team back. So, I'm not sure why we showed up so poorly defensively this season.
Across the whole season, other than Nordo's last game, across the whole season. And I do not want the whole defensive stat to be on the back of one player. Like we can't get to the top 4 with that happening, because what happens when that player gets injured? And and so if Bannon were not to come back, you would like to look at, I would like to look at somebody else anyway. They're not somebody else instead of Bannon. I would look to I want more bigs. Bigs.
Yeah, so if Ben didn't come back, if Ben didn't come back, I'd be going Mitch Creek. I think he's been staying up here in the Sunshine Coast for a while now. At least he was at one point during the season, because there were rumours that they had talked to him about coming to play for us as that injury replacement for McDaniel. But my understanding, I think he was happy not playing. He needed time away from the game.
He's got a lot going on personally. I follow him on Insta. He's been doing time overseas. He's got a little baby. He's doing all kinds of cool things. All right. So hopefully.
Yes.
All right. So we don't see any massively big changes, but what I'm really comfortable with this season is that I don't think they did a bad job at recruiting last season. It's like I look at it and it's like I can see what you're trying to do now. I really can. And the failure was not in the recruiting side of things. So I have a bit of trust there now because of owners and contacts and Stu Lash and all that kind of stuff, that we're going to get this done. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
But let's pop now to our next game, Bullets versus Cairns on Thursday, the 6th of February. And so, first of all, big shout out to North Queensland. I used to live up in the old Ville, Townsville, and they are getting absolutely poleaxed at the moment and flooding.
Yeah.
So we think of you all, and stay safe. And I went through the big 98 floods up there, the night of Noah. I looked it up going, what year was that? And they're like, the night of Noah floods. It was a bit like that. It was pretty full on. So let's talk a bit about this game. So my hope is that we just show up like we did last game. It really is. It's like, you've showed us you can show up. You've showed us you're willing to show up. Just go and do the thing that you do when you show up. And is it Harrison and Bannon done for the season? Is that like they're out for the season?
Yeah. I think they've said that they're out for the next few weeks. And I think that pretty much we've got one game left, so I don't think they're back at all.
Yeah, wow. And Rob Edwards is gone. And so that's the great thing for us. And Adam Ford, this could be his last game for the Taipans. So word on the street is that he is not going to renew his own contract and probably won't come back. So, that was on the marketplace. It was just like inferred that he was like, okay, we're done here. And he's done there. He's just ready to go to something new instead of like it's a bit of a rinse and repeat up there at Cairns because they don't have the money and they bring in players in development, then other people take them. And he says go because you'll get more money. And so that must get to him sometimes. But so there's a lot of reason for Cairns to win. They have not had a good home record this year. It's their last chance to do it with their fans. But we need it more this time. I don't know.
We do.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think much the same. We just need to come out like we played against Adelaide and let them have it. You know, Cairns have been our bogey team for the past few seasons. But, you know, because Ford always gets them up and ready to go for us. I think, especially since that Bannon incident, he really has it out for us.
Banger.
Yes, with Bannon, his incident with him. Without Edwards, you know, there's a large chunk of their scoring power. I expect Groves to step up. He took advantage of us not having our bigs last game.
He did. He punished us. That's when I was like, him. Can we have him, please? When he played us last time on our home floor and wiped it with us. It was pretty full on.
Yeah, so Tohi Smith-Milner and Dalton just need to, you know, really lock in on him early on and keep him from getting going.
You know who did well on him? Josh Coonan did well on him last game. That home game when Groves came out and started to wipe the floor with us. Yeah. They actually brought Coonan in and he did quite well on him. So that will be interesting to see what coach goes with up there this time.
Yeah, I think he just picked up some early fouls, which is during that game, which is why I don't think they kept going back to that. But yes, he did look good when he was out there. And then the other one for them is Armstrong. We've just got to keep him under control. Don't let him get to his spots. He's very good at it for such a young player. You know, throw Norton on him. I know Norton's a little bit too short for him, but I think
we've got one game left, Nordo. One game left.
Our best defender, just go all out on him. Make life difficult for him. And then, just come out with that same energy. Start throwing up those threes. If they're not going, take it inside. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. And do you know this, like the statistics for us to make the six? What is it like? We have to win by 30 and Adelaide have to lose by 30 or 60 or what? Do you know the numbers?
I think it's something like that. I think Adelaide need to lose by 40 and we've got to win by 40. So it's something like an 80-point difference. You know, we did this 5 years ago, I think it was. We needed 36 points.
Yeah. You can't forget that if you're in the building.
No, it was against Cairns.
Yeah.
So let's go and do it up in Cairns.
Yeah. So license to shoot. Whatever they
That's
said
it.
before that game, just say it again before this game. Different coach, a lot of different team, but yeah, do that again, please. That would be just fun
Absolutely.
to watch. And yeah, so it will be great. It will be great to see. And you know, we can't call this season a success, but we can't call it a complete failure either, because we've had the glimmers along the way, and there's something for us to hold on to. Usually it's just like, oh God, here we go again. This time it's like, oh no, hold on a second. Oh no, hold on a second. And so yeah, we'll might get into that whole expectation thing on another episode. But for tonight, thank you so much for joining me, Cameron. Do you have anything, one more thing that you'd like to say to Brisbane if they're listening, the Bullets?
Look, just go out there and leave it all on the line. You've got nothing left to lose. And yeah, come out and play like you did against Adelaide. You know, that's it. Just go out, throw it all at them. And yeah, hopefully we can walk away with that win.
Yeah. And I think there's often when teams aren't playing well that they kind of feel like they're loners out there doing it themselves. So my big thing for them is, we're with you. We're totally with you. You know, win, lose, draw, fall apart, injured, whatever. We're with you. We might, you know, moan and get angry sometimes, but we're right there, and we show up every game too. And so we'll be right there with you. Thanks so much for joining me today, Cameron. It's been great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll get you on another time. We've got loads of topics to talk about. So don't think, listeners and viewers, just because the season's ending that we're going to stop. We've got things to say, and we're going to keep saying them. That's what we're here to do. But for now, we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the Bullets broadcast. If you have thoughts, questions, or anything, please reach out. We would love to hear from you. This is a fans podcast for the fans, by the fans. If you want to see something, listen to something, let me know. I'm open to it all.